Hello everybody, welcome back to Commonwealth Flipper. I'm headed to the cabin, and I tell you what, I hate to do videos. You know, if you've watched me long enough, you know I'm not somebody who says this is what you should do and give advice and whatever. Pepper's out here already. What are you doing, kitty? I just don't like to do that kind of stuff. I like to just share what I do, and people can glean that information because everybody's situation is different. But I feel increasingly, I guess, motivated to say some of what I want to say today, and I hopefully get it out right. A lot of people will reject this. A lot of people always do. Sometimes I even see a decrease in subs to my channel, so I hesitate to do this stuff, but I think it's extremely important, and I really want to share some of this information with you and a bunch of sales. Let's go take a look. You know, when I was a teacher not long ago, I used a method of teaching that was very, very different than well, I never saw anybody use it as a teacher, actually. And I'm sure that some people use components of it. It's called a Gestalt theory, a Gestalt method of teaching. And I don't want to bore you to tears, so I'm not going to go over the details. I'll just say that, well, you can look it up. Look it up and look at Gestalt, and you'll understand what I'm talking about pretty quick. And I use that in this show. It's how I understand things, and it's how I layer things on top of each other or in a linear pattern, and not physically, but over time to kind of express my thoughts. And so that's what this is. So some of this may not make perfect sense on this video alone, but collectively, if you watch my show long enough, I think you'll kind of get the point. This was just a fun sale. What is this thing called? I used it in the thumbnail, I think. It's called a blue-footed booby bird. And this is a Gund. When I saw that and it was super cheap, I'm like, yeah, I'm picking that thing up. And it sells for $11.95 plus shipping. And I do have a bunch of items I'm going to pull today, so it won't be completely disjointed. But I do have to pull some stuff because I've got some live shows I've got to do today. And I'm going to be going on 3 separate times. So I'll probably film and then go do a little bit of that and come back and film and pull orders and then go back and do a little of that and all that. But I mention all that and how I used to teach just to give some context, because whenever I start talking about this stuff, people inevitably get mad at me. And I don't want anybody to be mad at me, but I really do believe in some of the things that I'm going to tell you today. And if you've been watching this show for a while, I've been making slow, progressive changes for a long time, for years at this point, because I've seen this coming. And I've seen it now materialize. And the success that I'm having, because I looked out into the future a little bit. You know, it's not something I want to talk about because it sounds like I'm bragging or whatever, but you really do have to look at the landscape of reselling and figure out what you want out of reselling, what you're getting out of it now, where you want to go in the future. And some of you out there, it's very, very limited. You just like picking. You don't need a ton of money. It's just for vacations or a supplement or retirement or whatever it is. And so this might not all of it might not apply to you. But for some of you out there, unless you start reading the tea leaves of what's really going on, you might be left behind. You know, in all my years filming videos and whatever, I don't think it's ever been, I try to make sure it's not messy. I mean, look at this when I film. And it's because I just hate it. I don't function very well. But let me tell you, it's the messiest it's ever been. And it has to do a little bit of what I'm talking about. My model has changed a little bit. And I'm going to get into that throughout this video and pull some items. This is, what are these called? I think these are Anchor Hawking and Sereno or something, salt and pepper shakers. They don't sell for much, but I got just about 15 bucks for them, plus shipping, of course. I always get yelled at because I don't get to the point, and I probably won't in this video, and it'll probably go on forever. But I want to make a few points here at the beginning as we talk about it. I'll tell you what, let me go back to what I first saw when I started watching social media. This is still context for what we're getting into. I would watch Craigslist Hunter. I've talked about this before. And one of the things that just immediately clicked to me was not the branding necessarily, but the advantages of selling using social media. And that's not necessarily what this video is about, but it's just context, right? Because most people aren't ever going to pick up a camera and start filming themselves. So I've talked about that before. There's many different ways to get out there on social media that doesn't require this kind of effort, because most people don't want to do it, to be perfectly honest with you. And I don't blame a lot of people. There's a lot of times in my life when I sure didn't want to do it. But I'm just going back to that early stage of me watching some of the early reselling content creators. I watched Lonnie over there at Shed Flips, and I watched, well, it was Garage Flips at the times, and I'm like, man, this guy's making money when he's out filming stuff. He's making money on the items that he's selling, and he's selling more of them, and there you could see him in his videos. And I'm like, man, and people go search the store, and I'm like, this is like a net plus. I'm like, man, this is really good stuff. And I started to see the advantages of social media. Now, what I didn't see at the time was all the changes in technology that have come. And now you're starting to see AI, which admittedly I'm a little afraid of, to be honest with you. Not in the terms that you might think, but I'm an old guy, right? I'm in my late 40s here, and I'm like, I don't really want to make these changes. And there's a lot of folks out there who are like that. And I'm not here to say everybody has to make changes. But I do think everybody needs to be aware of a few things so that they can, when necessary, navigate to create the kind of lifestyle around reselling that they want to do. Hey, I sold another one of these Napa cassette boxes. This is a nice one. They make them a little different from time to time. These are thicker here and here. And they usually, if I remember correctly, they have a boxed Napa logo, which is different. Yep, there it is. And these are a little bit better. They're a little sturdier. This one sold for $50 plus shipping. You know, I've always realized I have a lot of weaknesses as a person, but, you know, Socrates used to say the unexamined life is not worth living. So I've always been very aware of my shortcomings in certain areas, and I've focused on my strengths. One of the things I've been able to do for a lot of my life, actually, is to just kind of have these, I don't know if I'd say gut feelings, but you can read the tea leaves as to where things are going in the future. And I've always been able to adjust just enough, even though it's my natural inkling to not make changes, in order to stay ahead of where things are heading. And that's really what I want to talk about. So this item obviously sold on eBay. It's a static sale. This is a static sale. This is a static sale. This show is about static selling predominantly on eBay. It is my love. It's what I picking, not buying out wholesale, not any of that, picking things at yard sales, thrift stores, whatever. That is my love. But that world is changing, especially in the thrift store side of things. For me, it has for a long time, and I've started to make some changes. eBay is changing as well, and the growth of eBay has slowed dramatically over the last, well, you can make, I mean, shoot, it's really been, the growth has been slowing for a long, long time. There is still growth in it. So this is not going to be a video about the death of eBay or it can't be done this way anymore. Just the opposite, actually. I actually do believe that eBay selling, static selling, is still growing and there's more opportunity in it than ever before. However, it is slowing. That growth rate is slowing drastically. And part of the reason I'm bullish about it is because so many people who traditionally do things the way they do on the sourcing side are finding it not worth the time and effort. And so there's so much opportunity for those who are left. You know, so many of the history teachers that I work with, they tried to walk people through history and teach them that way in a straight linear story. And it wasn't easy. I used to use snapshots of history to teach ideas, and then the overall picture would become clear. If you guys, I mean, there's tons of you out there who probably hated history growing up, and it was purely because you had a teacher that, other than telling a story, you just didn't like it. This is a Thompson reference, chain reference Bible, and whenever I see this stuff, specialized Bibles are in a box, you pick them up. This one sold for $30 plus shipping. So I always give these snapshots of different things, but I'm going to attempt in this video to kind of tie 4 or 5 of those things together into a bigger picture, and you can glean with it, what you will. There's no expectation here. It's just really, this is videos about me more than anything, trying to tie these things together because I want to express some of them, because I think smart resellers right now, depending on what your model is, this is not for everybody, are doing something in particular. And there's a reason behind it. We're going to get to the reason behind it and then talk about what's going on. I'll kind of give you a little insight right here with this item. If you've noticed, my videos have shifted a little bit in the types of items I'm selling. Not tremendously, because I do have for instance, this kind of thing, right? This, well, maybe not even a great example. More like this kind of stuff. I love to sell it. And I have social media and it helps me sell it. But this is the kind of stuff you're seeing sold on live selling. And that market share is growing and growing. So I've made a few conscious decisions on the sourcing side and on the selling side. And my eBay sales are becoming much more like this type of stuff. You've seen me sell a ton of printer ink and homeschooling books and more books in general. There's all kinds of things that aren't necessarily pop culture kind of things that I'm focusing on a little bit more. Because really it's clear to me that, and I've said this a long time, static selling is not going anywhere. eBay's not going anywhere, at least not in the short term. This stuff, nobody goes onto a live selling platform to buy that or to buy this Bible. Unless you're a reseller and you're using it as a sourcing technique, and that's something else I'll talk about a little bit later in the video. It's not even impulse buying, it's experiential buying. And this video isn't all about, it's not about live selling. It's about how, because of the growth of live selling, how maybe you should start making those shifts in your static selling business. I'm going to read you a few things throughout this video, and I might summarize some of them. But this one has to do with, let's see, live selling platforms market sizes, okay? And the expectations right here. Compound annual growth, that's CAGR. This is the kind of stuff that I don't love getting into, but when it's talking about the future and looking down the road a little bit, I get into it. 21.2% is the growth rate that is expected from 2024 to 2030. And that, from all my research, is the low end. That's incredible growth compared to the expected growth of, say, eBay static selling. Now, personally, I believe that that's going to go up as well. My belief is that this is a growing business. Taking secondhand goods and reselling them on a secondary market, whatever that market is, whatever that style, is growing. There is immense opportunity out there. But I think a lot of people get frustrated because they're seeing the shrinking of their sourcing. And that was the biggest part of their joy. And I see more and more people who are, like me, I complain about, I used to be able to go to Goodwill and find stuff, whatever. And so instead of whining and complaining a little bit about it, I started to make some changes. And it's because I want to preserve what I love the most, which is this shed, selling things on eBay for top dollar or, compared to social media selling or live selling. And I've had to make a few shifts in there. And I'm glad that I've done it. And really, I got to tell you, y'all, my average sales across all platforms are exploding right now. And there's multiple reasons to it. And I'm going to tie those together. I'm going to read this as I pick up the next item here. Incorporating augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and 3D technologies present opportunities for enhancing live selling and streaming opportunities. Now, again, I'll go back to my statement. This is not to encourage people to do this necessarily. It is to give you a frame of reference as to where things are headed so that you can make adjustments to continue to do what you love to do. And everybody in here is very, very different. So, Skybox EXL, I've been selling these for a while now, y'all. They just keep on selling. This, actually, you know what? This one went to ABC Matt again. Matt, I think you're the only viewer who's bought these, and we've sold a bunch of them. And I think you have a comment. And this has a little bit, I'll talk about this for a minute. It's not necessarily a popular topic, but I'm going to say it because it relates. 2 of these card packs right here. Matt, you picked a good day for this because I'm wearing your hat. ABC Matt hat. Thank you, Kevin, for supporting me. You by far go above and beyond more than others. Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you. I truly appreciate you. What is your most and least performing category on all your selling platforms? That is a great question. I might have to look into it to give you your, I don't know. I'll tell you what. I'll give it to you on the next video, Matt, because I got a lot to talk about right here. Thank you, my friend. Congrats on going over 1,000 folks on YouTube as well. Here's another example, I think Pepper snuck in, of that kind of thing. There's not wild swings and stuff like this on eBay, and people are going to search out the best deals. And this is the kind of stuff that I've been having incredible success with lately. And what, the printer ink and stuff like that, those big cartridges I sold, some of the other things I mentioned. And this was a good one. I picked it up for 20 bucks at a sale, and it sold for $166.30. plus shipping. All right, I'm going to give you some more numbers in a minute to make the overall point here. Market share, trends and reselling and all that stuff. But before I do that, because Matt sent that message and I started to talk about the context of what got me thinking in this 2-year journey, really 3 or 4 year journey, but particularly in the last year and a half, ever since I bought that trailer, actually, that first trailer. And that hasn't exactly materialized like I wanted it to up to this point. However, it's starting to. I want to talk about branding. And I'm going to talk about it in my own experience because I'm doing things a lot differently than other people because I'm on social media, and it's purposeful. I mentioned not having a mess out there, not having a mess in my videos. I mentioned, the aesthetic of my videos because I saw the value in product placement. And it's something, if you watch the show, you get that, right? But branding is becoming extremely important. And I don't mean the kind of branding I'm going to talk about. It's not an accident where there's a Commonwealth picker sign here. I've done that from the get-go. My wife made that. The Enaman, all this stuff that's not an accident. The TVs out there with the logos on it, the pictures on the wall, the branding, even the branding of 80stees.com, right? I want to be perceived as that 80s guy in reselling. I want to be perceived as that, mid to late 40s guy in reselling because that is a huge chunk of the reseller market, and that's who I'm marketing myself to. And all of this stuff ties together, but there's other things that I think people don't quite grasp about how important branding is becoming in the reselling business and even niching down, which is something I do not want to do. But you can do things with branding that allow you to do what you love and to niche down at the same time. Some of the most, and this is excluding resellers who are social media resellers, including myself, but some of the most successful resellers I'm hearing from right now that you've never heard of are people that have created a niche for themselves and are just blowing it out of the water. It helps on the sourcing side. It helps. Now, that's not to say that they're actually everything sellers, but they've created a niche and they're using different platforms to create selling opportunities outside of that niche and focusing on what they know the best and selling it. I could give you examples of social media folks who you do know who are doing this. But before I do, I just want to make the point that this is what I'm seeing outside of the social media creators. But I'll use a couple examples here. These are die-cast dolls. And I remember seeing one of these and buying one at a sale and selling it for like 20 bucks or something. One of these littles, 1980s, I think, Mattel. And I remembered it when I saw these. I'm like, sweet. There's a big bag of this stuff. Actually, it was actually in a dollhouse that I did not want. And they were selling it all for 25 bucks. And I think that's right anyway. So I took this out, this and another bag full of other stuff I'm selling. I'm like, can I give you 20 bucks and just take all the accessories and put them into 2 lots? This one is sold for $48.95 plus shipping. All right, so this may seem a little disjointed, right? Because on one side of my mouth, I'm saying I don't want to niche down. I want to be an everything seller. And on this side of my mouth, I'm saying, hey, maybe this is the strategy going forward. They're actually not mutually exclusive. I'm doing both right now, and I've done it over the last few months, and increasingly I'm doing it, and I'm actually going outside of that as well in my sourcing and in my selling. And I've talked about Dibdit, and it's not something I want to just constantly talk about live selling on here or constantly talk about my shop commons or whatever. I like to talk about this, and I will continue to talk about this, and I'll continue to do this, and it will continue to grow because of what I'm talking about. On Dibdit, I am an 80s seller. I'm a pop culture seller. I'm a person who wants to sell stuff that when I post it on there, it's the kind of stuff that people want to experientially buy. And I'm also doing this. And I'm doing them in a way now that helps me on the sourcing side, where I have outlets for everything. So I can appear as a niche down seller, and I can be a niche down seller, and at the same time I can be an everything seller. Let me give you who'd be good. Rally Roots is a good example. If you've ever watched them, they've been going back years and years. They are known for selling t-shirts. They sell far more than t-shirts. But when you go on and watch their live selling shows, they're selling t-shirts, and they're sourcing them because they're known for that. Okay? But I know that they sell far more than that, and they do all kinds of different stuff. There's a whole different side of their business, 2 of them, if I read everything right. Ryan, sorry if I'm messing it up. But they're using the platforms that are out there to their advantage in the best way that each platform fits them. And I want to talk about some of those folks that aren't creators. The other creator that comes to mind really quick right off the bat, well, there's, of course, Crazy Lamp Lady, who's somewhat niched down and become dominant in that market. And she took that domination of that market and that niche and transferred it over into knickknacks.net. But another great example is my buddy Kerry American Arbitrage. He's dual branded social media, but he's also dual branded as a seller and in the card business. And, you know, I'll tell you what, y'all. Don't sell yourself short, and don't say this is a crowded space. You don't think of social media necessarily as the way I'm describing it, or not even describing it, but portraying it. It can be so much different, and many people can get involved in it. At the same time, it absolutely is not a great use of time for some folks, but these people, let me give you the example that I'm actually doing right now here. These are Kenner Treetop kids. Treetops, that's what they are, 1970s. And I don't think I've ever sold one before. It's like a pencil topper, I guess. I guess that's why they're called treetops. Treetops. I don't know. But that didn't sell for too much. It sold for $8.95 plus shipping. And then one of my favorite things to sell for years, I used to sell my antique booth before we closed it, is this one right here. These little foldable ruler things, we used to get 10 bucks in our booth. I can get 10 bucks on eBay as well. $11 for that Lufkin plus shipping, and that's sold to the same person. It is a viewer sale. Sold to Darla Barefoot_sunburnt. I like that. Speaking of branding, right? Longtime watcher, my first grandchild, Ophelia, is only 2 months old, but I recently found a vintage treehouse for her. It'll be so fun to have these vintage toys. Well, that's very kind of you. I appreciate that, and I hope she enjoys them. So here's another example. I'm currently sourcing from some folks, some local folks that sell nothing but high-end toys, essentially. And they have a separate business selling high-end comics and I think dabble in cards. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I am, because they are niched down, because they are selling only high-end, only great condition, really high-dollar stuff, their sourcing techniques have brought them to the point where they can buy in bulk and pick those high-dollar items that fit their niche perfectly, that they have the audience for. This is not social media. This is eBay alone. And they don't even want to dabble in these other things I'm talking about, live selling and whatever. But they're using the strategy that I'm talking about because of social media, because of live selling, because of all these things. And they're turning it on its head and using it to their advantage. And they are branding themselves to their marketplace, to their customers, as the dependable source to get these items in excellent condition, higher end stuff. They're also using it to their sourcing advantage. I'm thinking it's in other. But listen, in order to do this successfully, they have had to find an outlet for a bulk of what they purchase in order to specialize in the pieces of what they purchase and to do it in a way that maximizes profits in relation to time. Here is a Jordan Jumpman pink hat. I think it's been listed for a while, and it's sold for full dollar right here, $35 plus shipping. So I've become that guy for them, and I've been buying stuff off of them that's not like $200 items, not $100 items, but tons and tons of $15, $20, $30, $40 items, and some that are low end that I'm buying off of them as well, because they've got to clear it out to focus on what's making them money. And a lot of this stuff that I'm buying is perfect for me, for my brand, for my identity, for the new brand that we've created over there, Dibbed It, as well. And so you're finding different ways. You've got to find the resources, and you've got to communicate with folks in order to create the world you want for reselling. And the opportunities are there for sure. And to be honest with you, it is the live selling that has made this kind of new connection and niching down for some and not for others, and this wholesaling thing. I'm doing shopcoms.net because I've seen this stuff coming. So I decided to take each piece of this puzzle and try to capitalize on all pieces of it. In here, selling statically on eBay, niche down pop culture type items on Dibdit, because that's my brand, if you will, and the wholesale part of it to allow others to do exactly what I'm talking about. This is the thing that I've been piecing together and mentioning over many different weeks, many different videos. But I hope that this video is going to show people the connection between all three of them. The days, I hate to say this, for some people, the days of going to the Goodwill or Salvation Army or whatever, buying single items off of shelves and making a substantial income are slowing. They're still there for some people, depending on where you live and what kind of sourcing. You know, they've shifted, a lot of people have shifted to the bins type stuff, and they're doing all kinds of different methods. And now the online sourcing, because of, well, not because of Shop Commons, but the idea of wholesaling and stuff online and finding different sources, all that stuff is coming together. I really encourage people to find your place or places in that process if you want to continue to do what you're doing. And that's not to say you can't continue to do what you love if you love going to garage sales. I will never stop doing that. It will always be part of my business. Same thing with thrift stores, but probably at a much slower rate like it has been the last few years. I'll just give you a few more little insights or numbers here. In 2023, that's last year, live streaming commerce sales in the United States reached an estimated $50 billion. Referred to as live commerce, shopping online stream social networks is gaining in popularity. And this is globally as well. Forecasts indicate by 2026, sales from live shopping will grow by 36%, making up 5% of e-commerce sales. Now, 5%, you might think, that's not that big. You throw out Amazon out of that picture right there, and that is a massive amount of growth. And if that continues, it will be I'm not going to say it's ever going to overtake static selling on marketplaces like eBay, but it's becoming a huge chunk of it. And it has really deteriorated some markets, let's be honest. Certain markets. You know, if you're a kid, well, not even a kid now, if you want to buy Pokemon stuff, you know, where are you going to go to buy it? If you're looking for that one particular item that you want to look for, you're going to go to eBay. If you're just looking for general items, you're not anymore going to go to eBay, or at least not as frequently. I pulled this one out on the last video and realized it was the wrong one, and that one sold for $124.95. This one was also a sale, but not the one I was shipping out yesterday. That Bose, I don't even know what it is exactly, sold for $60 plus shipping. All right, so I know there's a lot of critics already saying out there, especially on the branding side of it, it's like, that's a waste of time for me and whatever. I get that. It's, you know, they might say, oh, stickers are stupid, or having logos, or putting time and effort into an Instagram or whatever. All that's not worth your time. And I would largely agree, unless you are a specialist who loves something. We've talked about Daily Cabbage before, and Cabbage Patch Kids. Joy Toy Attic over there, she does a lot of strawberry shortcake stuff. And that doesn't make you a niche down one thing seller, because you can brand yourself in so many different ways. But here's really what I'm talking about, because I don't want people to be misguided by what I experienced, what I was talking about with branding myself in different ways. There are now marketplaces who are allowing, not even allowing, they're encouraging niched down marketplaces. So if you just enter into that marketplace and sell that niche down product, the branding is already there for you. Just look at Knickknacks over on District. That is the reason. That is the reason that I've shifted, well, frankly, from Whatnot to being over there. I think that branding and niching are significantly more important than you think. If you're a Whatnot seller, you've got to create your own brand, but you don't have to on District. The brands are being created for you, and you enter into that and become a personality in that brand, static selling and live selling. This is the kind of new technology, the new innovations that are coming, and they're coming weekly over on that platform. And you see the competition back and forth between different online selling platforms. So hopefully that's what you're grasping out of this. I'm not telling people to, you know, make a Commonwealth picker sign and make a YouTube channel and whatever. I'm saying that the power of branding and marketing is becoming easier for people to enter into those things and to multiply your brands or a piece of a brand that's already created. eBay's a brand, right? I think eBay struggles in comparison to brand itself, because you don't want eBay niching down. Hey, we sell, plush over here and whatever. That's not what you want out of a marketplace like eBay. And so you can use each marketplace in a way that is highly effective for you to do what you love. I'm going to pull another item. I've still got a bunch to pull here, but then I'm going to kind of summarize it with one example of somebody who I've seen. I've known him for years and has made this transition here, this transformation into what I'm talking about. And I'm going to highly suggest you go and maybe even listen to him. I think in the last few months, I've seen him put his nose to the grindstone and really create something that I think is going to work amazingly well, because he's seeing where the trends are going. And I'm so glad this sold. This was what is it, SingStar. I've had this thing listed forever. And it finally sold on 30% off right here, this little lot. And so I think we got just under $11 for it, plus shipping. You've heard me talk about my buddy Tim over the years, and he doesn't know I'm saying this, but I've been watching him because he's on social media and whatever, but I don't think the social media he does anything really necessarily for his business in a big way. Okay, so I think he's a great example of somebody you can watch on social media that isn't necessarily benefiting from the social, like I do, right? I mentioned we've had 2 viewer sales today and whatever, and I think that's, I'm proud of that. The more I do this, I used to kind of like defend myself from it, but boy, we're entering into a world where you really do need to, especially with the younger audiences, you really do need to be multifaceted in how you sell, how you brand, how you market yourself. And this guy right here, let me tell you, this might seem like a contradiction, but this makes my point that I've been trying to make for a while, giving you pieces of it. He is the most niched down everything seller you will find. So here's what I'm talking about. He's using the power of the branded marketplaces like mine, Dibdit. He's sold with me on Dibdit. This guy can sell. He is an expert in and niche down in multiple categories and has begun to streamline the rest of his business to match that model. So if you're like me, you don't want to niche down. You want to be an opportunity seller. That's what he does right now. I'm sure he's got stuff listed over there on eBay that are all of his niches, but they're not niche down on eBay. Okay? What do I mean by that? So, he sells glass, right? He is a niche down expert glass seller on knickknacks, for instance, live and static. He's an expert on t-shirts. And he sells t-shirts. He can sell t-shirts on Dibdit. He sells baseball cards, right? He's got these, you don't find too many people out there doing baseball, or not just baseball, but sports cards and glass, right? And hats, and we could just pick all these different categories. But he's finding the branded places, the niche down places to sell his niches and to create his brand in each of those niches, while maintaining the ability to be an everything seller, an opportunistic seller on eBay, because I don't want to be like, oh, well, I don't sell, printers and stupid stuff like that and boring stuff like that, and then cause myself to miss a $20 and $164 sale because I want to be known as the, 80s guy. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to pass up that money. So you can do both. And I just would encourage people who want to continue to do both and want to expand their business. Some people don't want to expand their business. To start thinking about this stuff and watching it and to see maybe where you fit in. And I know there's a lot of people, you hear this stuff and you immediately turn stuff off in your head. Like, I don't want to do live selling. I would hate that. I wouldn't. Fine. I totally agree. I don't love live selling. I've grown into it a little bit. It's not my love. But there is a place for you to be found. I'll give you the example of my shop commons. I keep walking past stuff. I'm more interested in talking and telling you what's sold. This is a Dobby bobblehead from Harry Potter. And surprisingly, I don't even know where this came from. It's like a giveaway. I bet you this was a giveaway. I bet it might even have been a giveaway like at a fast food restaurant or something. I don't know. But this one sold for 25 bucks. Plus shipping. There are people that, the success of my shop commons, it's not a complete surprise. shopcommons.net. It is a surprise at how quickly it's growing and how many sales have occurred over there. Just, it shocked me a little bit at how successful it was, because this new world that we're living in, the sourcing world, is changing a little bit slowly over time, and the selling is changing a little bit over time, and the live selling markets. There are people over there buying to sell live, and that's just crazy to me. And, you know, live selling, you're not going to get higher dollar, and except for in certain categories, you're going to get a lot less. But if you can figure out a place to buy from people who are live, you know, people who buy in bulk, live sell in a category because they're branding or niching down, and you can glean from the rest of the stuff that they buy that's maybe in your niche, or maybe not even in your niche. Maybe you're an everything seller selling on eBay. That's what I'm telling people. So don't ignore the massive growth in live selling. It is growing exponentially. It is going to continue to, maybe not exponentially, but it is growing fast. Faster than any other type of this type of selling. So I understand people not wanting to live sell. 100%. I'm not telling people to do it. It's the wrong thing for 95% of people. What I'm saying is pay attention to it. Because, well, one reason is the sourcing side, especially on Shop Commons, because you're sourcing in bulk. But that's a slightly different story, because people are sourcing for me on live sales, and I'm getting a little bit more than a lot of people do because I have a following, and they're still able to source from me. I get messages from people, hey, I bought this off of you. This is what I sold it for. I'm like, sweet, but it doesn't fit my model. And so I would not ignore it. I think that it is a continually growing marketplace, taking market share. Taking market share makes it sound like other things are declining. They're not. eBay's still growing. So find your place in that whole scheme of things. All right, so like I said, this is as much for me as it was for anybody else. I had to say all this stuff, and hopefully I did a decent job of it. I may not have. Where am I going to find this thing? It used to be up in that drawer, and then I reorganized, and this might take me a minute, you know. There, I found them sitting right there, right in front of my face the whole time. These are Ablounce screws. I used to get $10.95 plus shipping for these, and I don't anymore, unfortunately. So I haven't been listing these anymore, but I still list the other components. Ablounce, $6.64 for these. So the Longaberger picnic basket, good shape. I believe I paid $10 for this one. Might have been $15, and I figured it was worth it. Much more than that I wouldn't have, because it's a bit of a pain to ship, but you know, you get the right size boxes, you'll be okay. Hey, that reminds me of something. I'm going to give this shirt away real quick. $52.20 plus shipping. I mentioned branding earlier and 80stees.com. That was a perfect fit for my brand, right? Speaking of perfect fit, you can get this shirt right here in your size. Just put, I don't know, best year ever down below. And maybe, I always say 1977. That's not exactly 80s, but just put best year ever down below, and you can be entered in to win. I'll announce it on a future video. I have to announce another winner too. What did I give away the other day? I got to start writing this stuff down so I don't forget. I gave something away the other day in a video, and I've got, oh, it was another 80s tees. It was in a Commonwealth Picker video. So I'm going to announce that one on the next video from Commonwealth Picker. So if you watch over there, I'll announce it over here. I might put it in a overlay on a Commonwealth Picker video as well. Pepper's staring at me down there. You like this shirt? So this shirt, 80stees.com, put best year ever. I'll pick a winner and announce it in a few days or so. And when you do that, I'll mention your name, whoever won it, and you can contact me. But for the rest of you, 80stees.com, code Commonwealth, 35% off for a t-shirt. Buy somebody a cool t-shirt for Christmas. Speaking of Tim, over the years, I bought this next item here. You see, I had to cast everything off of it. I knew they were wrapped up in bubble wrap, so I'll have to show you a picture. They're Wade, like porcelain, what do they call them? Wade Winsies. I bought them off him partly to support him over there. He was selling on knickknacks.net over on the District app, and partly because there was a margin in it for me. And kill two birds with one stone. Sold for $30 plus shipping. All right, Reagan, once again, thank yous from CommonwealthPicker.com.
Curtis got a poncho ornament, and Peggy and Neil both got black lights.
That's right, and there they are. So get a stocking stuffer for your favorite reseller friend. Right, Pepper? At any rate, we are getting super low on these ornaments, y'all, so get them quick before they're gone.
Bye. don't forget your stickers at commonwealthpicker.com.
I guess what I'm saying is don't get fixated on the struggles that are truly there in reselling. There are issues. There are issues with eBay. There are things that we can complain about and try to change and try to fix. But the world truly is our oyster with reselling right now. If you make the right moves and you keep your nose to the grindstone and make good, wise decisions and talk to people and learn. I'm learning all the time. Blue Streak, 1,000 count paintballs. This isn't a big sale. $20 plus shipping, but I'll take it. Using the inventory system I do, which is a mostly bins, but areas for similar type items to go, I can kind of keep a pulse on what's selling and what's not. And my MCM bin is overflowing. That means we're not selling a ton of it. I can't believe this thing didn't sell. I love that thing, little mushroom planter. Anyway, this sold though, and I'm super glad I pulled it out a minute ago. Set it right here so I wouldn't have to dig and make y'all go crazy. This is a metal, I don't know if we call it MCM, but it's a metal mailbox, you know, you put on the wall right there. Got this from Dawn American Arbitrage. She picked it up at the 127 sale and they were traveling. And so I got a lot of the big stuff and I bought it off of her. And it sold. Dawn, thank you, Lady American Arbitrage. Lady Arbitrage. And it sold for $34.95 plus shipping. All right, I hope I didn't offend anybody. You know, I know people get touchy, talk about live selling, and I'm not necessarily trying to pump, you know, dibdy.com, shopcommons.net, and all that stuff. I mean, it's a nice little ancillary benefit. Come over and check us out. But I truly believe that this certainly is the path forward for me. And with the slight changes and slow changes over time, I think I'm staying in front of these things. I hope some of this is beneficial. For some of you, it's just not going to be, and I get that. You know, you're just the way, you know, you might be 75 years old and just trying to make an extra couple $100 a month, and eBay's not going anywhere. It just isn't. And you can still sell stuff over on eBay that applies to all these other things that I'm talking about. So, anyway, thank you for letting me ramble. Thank you for listening to me. Feel free to disagree. I love the conversations that go back and forth. I learned so much from you guys. I always have, and I always will. And I can't wait to see you next time.